All right, everybody, what is going on? Happy Thursday. Good morning. Hope things are going well. And we are going to be getting back to our list of most valuable players on the 2025 Seattle Seahawks. But we're going to kind of sort of switch it up today because today we're going to do honorable mentions before we get to the top three. The next three videos in this series are going to be number 3, number 2, number 1. So I thought it would be a good idea to, before we get to that top three, talk about some guys who didn't make the list, but came close and still did a lot to help this team win. Not really a firm order for these honorable mentions, but I don't want this series to be allowed to pass by without mentioning them because I think they did significant things for the Seahawks in 2025, and it would be a mistake to talk about the most valuable players and not have them. This video is sponsored by PrizePicks. So our first honorable mention is going to be Josh Jobe. He's definitely a little bit of a forgotten member of this defense that was, like I said, the #1 defense in football last year. And on some level, I understand that he's not as flashy as someone like a Devin Witherspoon or a Reek Woolen, and he certainly doesn't have the coverage numbers of a Reek Woolen, but I think we have to recognize a couple things here. For one, Josh Jobe did do a really good job of playing football during a time where this team could have kind of spun off the rails when guys like Devin Witherspoon and to some extent even Reek Woolen and Julian Love, and you could even throw Kobe Bryant in there, were missing time with injuries. So Jobe did a really good job of not just playing when those guys were out, but playing well. Like, his coverage numbers are still really good. He gives up a fair few big plays, but I think his completion percentage allowed was under 50% for the regular season, and he played a lot, had a lot of plays on the ball. He was one of our best players in the Super Bowl, by the way. Don't forget about that. And the fact that he was so good last year is a big reason why this team felt liberated to move off of a guy like a Reek Woolen and not overextend themselves to get a replacement. They think Jobe can become that full-time player, and if you look at what he did in 2025, I think that's fair. I can't rank him on the list ultimately because at the end of the day, he wasn't even really a full-time starter. He was rotating in and out with Woolen, but on some level, this team trusted him more. And I think it was an understandable thing that they trusted him more. Josh Jobe ended up being a really important piece, and there's a reason why they extended him and not Woolen. And he may not be an elite player yet or anything like that, but we got way more than I expected out of Jobe in 2025. So he would be my first honorable mention. Moving on to the next one. We have Michael Dickson here. Michael Dickson, the other primary special teamer. Couldn't really find a way to justify putting him on the top list. I just don't think that a punter impacts the game the same way pass rushers and pass catchers and quarterbacks and offensive linemen do, but Michael Dickson does a lot to impact the game in the areas that he can impact, and he had another stellar season. It wasn't his best season, but for the first time in his career, it actually felt like we weren't using him that much. He only punted the ball 52 times last year, which is pretty easily a career low. And while he, again, wasn't his best in terms of preventing returns and punting for distance, it was still very good. He still mostly avoided touchbacks. He had very few touchbacks last year. And he was the all-pro second-team punter. So for the first time in a long time, he made an all-pro team, and that speaks to how good he was. If you like sports, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using the PrizePicks app, where it always feels good to be right. PrizePicks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, and obviously we are now firmly into the NFL offseason, so we're all about baseball. We got some basketball, we got some hockey, whatever it is you like. PrizePicks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. Definitely make sure to use the promo code HMA. PrizePicks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If you use that promo code, that is HMA. I've had a great time on PrizePicks so far, so definitely get on over to it, check it out, and make sure to get your lineups. And don't forget about Team Picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So download the app now, use HMA, and get on over to Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. And at the end of the day, he is representative of how much this Seahawks team cares about special teams, right? The fact that they have made him either the highest or one of the highest paid punters in football, depending on the year in which you research the question, proves that. And on some level, the fact that this team cares about special teams so much is why they were there at the end and other teams were not. So even though I understand that at the end of the day he is a punter, I think that there also has to be some acknowledgement of the fact that he represents more than that. And I know we already talked about Jason Myers. He actually made the list. But Dixon has his own role to play on this team as well. And it's a fairly significant one. And he had another great year, another typically great year. Probably not his best year, but he is still doing it for the Seattle Seahawks. So that is my second honorable mention. Moving on to honorable mention 3. We have A.J. Barner. A.J. Barner really emerged as a legitimate tight end 1 in 2025, played much better than I think could have been reasonably expected, given the fact that he was a second-year player who only started 6 games as a rookie. Not only did he become a really good pass catcher, and the thing to understand with A.J. Barner is that, number one, he is not even necessarily the primary receiving threat at tight end on this team, even though he was, of course, the most targeted one. His skill set is not necessarily the one that lends itself to being an elite receiver, but this team doesn't throw the ball that much. This team throws the ball less than almost every other team in the league. And when they do throw the ball, you know who they're throwing to. They're not throwing to A.J. Barner. They're throwing to JSN. And yet A.J. Barner still found a way to carve out his 50 catches, 500 yards, 6 touchdowns. He also added some real value as a barnyard player. And while his postseason wasn't super prolific, he did catch the first touchdown of Super Bowl 60, the play that didn't necessarily end the game, but kind of sort of felt like it did. It was the first of several plays that felt like they ended the game, and each subsequent one just kind of added more fuel to the fire. But coming up with 519 receiving yards in 17 games in this offense that likes to run and then likes to throw the ball at JSN first, second, and last. First, second, and third, I guess would be more appropriate to say. Really good, and he's a good blocker. In a league where blocking from a tight end is kind of becoming a lost art, A.J. Barner is a very credible blocker. So you add that in on a team that runs the ball as much as they do, and the fact that A.J. Barner has to play both roles for this team because he's out there so much, you have yourself a really valuable honorable mention. Drake Thomas is our next guy here. Drake Thomas. This gets kind of forgotten here because obviously it happened so early in the season, but there was a time where Seattle looked like they were in some real trouble at the linebacker spot because Tyrese Knight was not right. And Tyrese Knight, I mean, it wasn't all bad, but he did not look as good as he did as a rookie. He looked like especially a bit of a disaster in coverage. And we were down to one credible linebacker on this team in Ernest Jones, and that just wasn't going to cut it. We needed somebody else. A lot of people, myself included, wondered if maybe we'd make a trade. But Drake Thomas came in and saved the day. And I'm not going to say he was among the most valuable players on the team, but I don't think it can be understated how much he did save this team with his level of play. He was a good player all around, effective and good against the run, came up with that interception in the 49ers game to really make sure we won that game, made plays in coverage, 10 tackles for loss. So he was one of the few players on this team that was constantly making plays in the backfield. So really good stuff here. He was also a really good blitzer. Oddly enough, he's actually been our best blitzing linebacker, even better than Ernest Jones. And Ernest Jones came to Seattle as somebody that was known as being one of the best blitzing linebackers in football. So he was excellent in that regard. And just overall, when you consider where we were with Drake Thomas when the season started, thinking he was just a credible backup and special teamer, and part of me was waiting for the other shoe to drop all season, and it never did. He just continued to be an above average starter. And there's a reason why we extended him before free agency even started. We saw something that we valued and we didn't want to mess around with it. We even gave him a multi-year extension when we didn't necessarily have to, because this is a guy we've come to really value. And think about where we would be if it wasn't for him. And final honorable mention is going to be Kobe Bryant, just a rock solid starter for the safety position in Seattle this last year. Did get hurt near the end of the year, did miss 2 games at the end, but was back for the postseason. 4 picks on the year, so one of the better ball hawks on this defense. And it's important to keep in mind, it's not easy to play safety for Mike Macdonald because you need to be versatile. You need to be able to play in the box, and you need to be able to play deep. And this was the first full season of Kobe Bryant at safety, and he looked great at it. So great at it that he got a bunch of money to go to the Chicago Bears. And I understand that he wasn't one of the standout superstar performers on this team, but there's something to be said for just grinding it out week after week after week, day after day after day back there, making plays on the ball, something that a lot of other players on this team, as good as they are, don't necessarily do that much. And just being somebody you can rely on and depend on from week to week in a way that you couldn't necessarily say about a lot of the other guys in the secondary because they missed time. Kobe Bryant missed a little bit of time at the end of the year, but Julian Love missed half the season. Devin Witherspoon missed 5 games. So Kobe Bryant holding it down here and just being consistently available and consistently solid, not spectacular, but in a secondary that needed some stability, he really provided it. All right. So that's it for the honorable mentions. Obviously, you could keep going down the list if you really wanted to, but I'm going to stop it at those 5 guys. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Everyone have a good rest of your day. Honorable mentions for me, again, would be Josh Jobe, Michael Dixon, AJ Barner, Drake Thomas, and Kobe Bryant. Let me know what you think. See you guys soon. Top 3 coming in the next several days.